9 of the fantasy baseball season. Here's a few batters I would look to buy low and trade for this week. The first guy is Jose Ramirez of the Cleveland Indians. So Ramirez, it's been a pretty good season for him still, no doubt about it this year. 13 home runs, 31 RBIs, 37 runs scored, a 258 batting average, a 345 on base. But the last couple weeks, his numbers have pretty much hit a tailspin kind of. 1 home run, 6 RBIs, 10 runs scored, 2 stolen bases, a 239 batting average, and a 333 on base percentage. So this season the average is a little bit down here for Ramirez. And obviously this lineup got weaker in the offseason after the Indians traded Francisco Lindor to the New York Mets. But hey, he hasn't done much at all there, hitting 190 on the season. But anyway, Jose Ramirez, he was a first round pick in most fantasy drafts, and I'm expecting owners expecting more out of him this season, because 258, it's a middle of the pack type of batting average, but you expect them to hit 280s to the 300 range. And the last couple games here for Ramirez: May 27th, 2 for 5 with 2 runs; May 28th, 1 for 3 with a run; May 29th, it was rained out; May 30th, doubleheader versus Toronto, 1 for 5 with 2 RBIs; May 31st versus the White Sox, 1 for 6, a homer and 2 RBIs; and then June 1st, 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run scored versus the White Sox. And then yesterday's game versus the White Sox rained out. So right here, Ramirez, he's not hitting the ball great. He's been in a little bit of a tailspin, and the power hasn't even been there in 2 weeks. Only 1 home run in that time, but the power numbers on the season are still good. He's only struck out 28 times, so he's still putting the ball in play. But right now, I think the value's definitely dropped. He's not worth the first round pick he was early in the season on the drafts. And right now, if I could get him on the low, which I think you could while the value's down a bit, this is the time to do it before the hot summer months really kick into gear and he gets things going. The next hit is JT Realmuto of the Philadelphia Phillies. So Realmuto, it's been a weird season here for him so far. He's been banged up with injuries, then a lot of rainouts or whatever the deal may be here with the Phillies, and he got the big contract in the offseason, over $100 million. And so far this year, 4 home runs, 19 RBIs, a 287 batting average, 19 runs scored, and a 395 on base percentage. But the last couple weeks, it's gone down here for Realmuto. No home runs, 2 RBIs, 3 runs scored, a 231 batting average, and a 389 on base percentage. So Realmuto, the numbers are good so far this season, especially for him not playing the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season here. But he was coming into fantasy drafts as the best catcher in most drafts people were taking him as, and he's just not getting it going the last couple weeks. The power numbers are down as well, where last season he hit 11 home runs in 173 at-bats, and this season in 122 so far, he has 4, so he's a little behind on that pace. And like I said, the batting average, it's been down the last few weeks, even though last season he only batted 266, and this year so far he's still at 287. But right now, while his value's a little down there, he's an easy target, I think, to go out there and buy low. I know catcher is a weak position in fantasy baseball, and anyone who has Realmuto, they're still pretty satisfied, I would think, to see what he's doing. But right now, his value's just not where it was early in the season, and if I could get him on a discount, this would be the time to do it. And I think he's a buy low candidate for sure. This week is Realmuto, and the last few games for him: May 29th at Tampa, 0 for 3. May 30th at Tampa, 1 for 3 with a ribby. May 31st at Cincy, 1 for 3 with an RBI. June 1st at Cincinnati, 1 for 4 with 3 runs. And then yesterday's game, June 2nd, was rained out at Cincinnati. So we'll see what he does the upcoming days, but I definitely think I could buy him low this week. The next hitter is Trevor Story of the Colorado Rockies. So another first round pick in fantasy drafts this season, and he's been a total bust so far. Here is Story on the season: 5 home runs, 23 RBIs, 8 stolen bases, 26 runs scored, 255 batting average for Story on the season, and a 322 on base. So right here, he's been on the injured list as well. He just went on his Story with a right elbow injury, so we'll see how long he's going to be out. Maybe only the 10 days he's going to need. There's no structural damage in the elbow. But even before that, he's been struggling and not living up to that first round hype coming into the season. And the last couple weeks, the numbers are 1 home run, 2 RBIs, a stolen base, 2 runs scored, a 241 batting average, and a 267 on base. So this guy's not drawing walks. He's not getting on base really. And it's been a total mess for him this season. And I know if I was a Story owner, I definitely would be frustrated and look to trade him off and try to get anything in a deal for him, especially now with the injury, even though it don't seem too serious to me. So the last few games before he went down, May 24th at the Mets 1-for-4, May 25th at the Mets 0-for-4, and May 27th in the doubleheader at the Mets 1-for-4 with a stolen base. So right here, he's been out, his Story, since May 29th. And also with Nolan Arenado not on this roster anymore, the protection in that lineup, just like Jose Ramirez, is gone as well. But right now, I still think Story could turn it around. It's a contract season as well, and he's a perfect buy low candidate with him busting out so far this season and not performing, and also him on the injured list. The next hit is Brandon Lowe of the Tampa Bay Rays, so he was a sleeper for me coming into the season, is Lowe, and he qualifies at first, second, and outfield, so good versatility for him, obviously, in fantasy baseball. And on the season, 9 home runs, 22 RBIs, 26 runs scored, 3 stolen bases, an awful 189 batting average, and a 304 on base. And you didn't think the numbers could get worse. They definitely have in the last 2 weeks here for Lowe. 2 home runs, 4 RBIs, 7 runs scored, a 149 batting average, and a 293 on base. So Lowe last season, he was just an all-round better player. This season already, in 8 less at-bats, he's got 8 more strikeouts. The power numbers, they're still on par, kind of, this season with 9 last year, with 14 and 8 more at-bats. But the batting average is way down. The on-base is way down. And I think he's pressing too much and chasing a lot of breaking balls. This season is low here, because last season was a great season for him, and I thought he was going to take the next step. But that hasn't been the case so far this season. And right now, you could get him pretty much for nothing, batting at 189, and even owners have dropped him in 4% of fantasy leagues this week. But he's still only available in 13% on the waiver wire. But in a trade, you could probably trade a low-grade closer or a low-grade starting pitcher for Brandon Lowe, in my opinion. And that's definitely worth the buy this week here. I'm buying Lowe because coming into the season, he was a 6th or 7th round pick. And right now, you can get him pretty much for nothing here. So the last few games for Lowe, May 27th versus Kansas City, 0-for-2 with 2 runs and 2 stolen bases. May 29th versus Philly, 0-for-4. May 30th versus Philly, 1-for-4. May 31st versus Philly, 1-for-4. First at the Yankees, 1-for-5 with a run. So Lowe, he's still batting first to second mostly in this Ray lineup. And I know they think he's going to turn it around. And I think he's going to turn it around as well. So right now is a perfect time to go out there and get him on the low in the 5th and final batter. I would look to buy Low this week's Nolan Arenado of the St. Louis Cardinals. People might think, I can't really get Arenado low. But the last couple weeks, the numbers just haven't been good for Arenado. In the season, they've been good regular season numbers. 11 home runs, 35 RBIs, 274 batting average, 322 on base, and 29 runs scored. But the last 2 weeks, he's been a train wreck. 1 home run only, 5 RBIs, 4 runs scored, a 163 batting average, and only a 189 on base. So Arenado, he was always up there in the on-base percentage category. But now the last 2 seasons, I don't know what it is. He's pressing too much, or he's just not drawing enough walks. And that's totally been the case here, in my opinion, the last 2 years for Arenado. And right now, the last couple weeks, the numbers don't lie. He's hitting 163. But this guy, in my opinion, he's a total stud, and he's going to break out. So if there's a disgruntled Arenado owner in your fantasy league right now, while his value is low, you definitely go out there and try to make a move on him. Because Arenado, he's only got 1 hit in his last 3 ball games here. And the last few games here for Arenado, May 28th at Arizona, 1-for-4 with a homer and 2 RBIs. May 29th at Arizona, 0-for-4 with a run. May 30th, they sat him out in that one. May 31st at the Dodgers, 0-for-4. And June 1st at the Dodgers, 0-for-4. So right now, Arenado, he's just not hitting the baseball well. But I think things are definitely going to turn around. And it's his first year here with the Cardinals, obviously. But already his numbers have been pretty decent, in my opinion. The strikeouts are still low. The home runs are at a decent pace with 11. So he'll probably finish with 25 or 30 this season. Just the only numbers down for me here is the on-base and the RBIs, obviously, where each and every season in Coors Field, he was driving in 120 to 140 range, but this season I don't think he'll reach it. But right now, after the last 2 weeks of struggles, he's definitely a buy low candidate. So that's a few hitters I look to buy low and trade for here in week 9 of the fantasy baseball season.